My name's Mary Gray of MaryGrayBooks.com and Monster Ivy Publishing, and today I'm recording this video for the beautiful young women from the Huber Heights Ward, a youth group in Dayton, Ohio. A friend from my days in Virginia, Sister Smith, hi, reached out to me with a few questions about what it's like to be an author. I have also received similar questions from a local teen, Sophie. I'm making this recording public so that other teens around the globe with an interest in writing can watch it. And if you want to learn more about me and my books, visit MaryGrayBooks.com, since I'm not really going to delve into my particular books now. So, are you ready for this? This job has some pretty high highs and some low lows. So, get ready to take a sneak peek at my personal roller coaster. So, the first question you asked is, what kind of training and schooling I've had to do this? Well, that's a kind of a hard question. Just like anything in the arts, anything you experience in life prepares you for it. If you go on a trip with your family, take notes on everything you see. I just went on a swamp tour in Louisiana with my sister, and I took notes on my phone while I learned about alligators and bald cypress trees and anything that I could potentially use for a setting for a story. If you have a fight with your friends, write about that too, because any sort of conflict or drama is what people want to read about on the page. And scholastically speaking, the more you read and write, the better off you'll be. A lot of people think that just if you watch TV, then you'll be able to write a book. But that's not true. There are specific tricks you need to be able to learn to engage the reader. Things like show, don't tell, how to write setting or pacing, romance or dialogue. How do you write fight scenes? And the most important thing you can do to learn all of this is to practice writing now. So if you're given an essay question in school, really focus on it. Do your very best. If you're given the option to do some extra credit with writing, do a book report. Anything that you can do to practice writing. If you can take a daily journal, if you personally write right now, do it as much as you can and read, because then you'll understand the genres and what's available and the things that readers expect nowadays, and also maybe things that you want to try differently that can open your mind to how books actually work. Another thing you can do is you can take AP English classes, write those essays for scholarships. There's actually a social media site some of you might know about called Wattpad. It's a really cool site because you can post stories and receive feedback from other aspiring writers. People tend to be very forgiving on there, not expecting you to be a professional or polished writer, but someone who's flexing their writing muscles and learning how to do it. Writing is hard work, and the more you practice, then the more you'll learn. Also, be open to feedback. If you're on Wattpad, people will comment, and usually they're very forgiving. Or, if you have a critique group, if you have a group of friends who like to write like you do, that can be so invaluable because you can tell each other what actually works and what doesn't. A lot of us think that, okay, I wrote a novel, now I need an expert to look at it. And you can pay editors and they will gladly look at it, or you can turn to your peers or teachers in school if that's their assignment. And you can get invaluable information even from a very common reader or common writer, because what you think works in your head, the most important thing is to know if it works for a regular reader. And if they're like, whoa, that doesn't make sense, you're using too many fancy words, or I can't picture what you're writing, you can get that kind of feedback from just about anyone. The next question you asked is what sorts of options there are within the writing field. So there are actually more options now, more than ever. It used to be that self-publishing was taboo, and when I first started out, I never wanted to do that. And I eventually sold my first book to a small press, and it was really great. I went to New York and participated at BEA, where I signed advance copies of the book to book reviewers and bloggers, and that was an amazing experience. But then my second book I wrote, and after getting a new literary agent, somebody who could represent me, my new agent tried to sell my book and it didn't work. And I still felt really strongly that it was a strong book. I had learned all about the craft of writing, and I had critique groups and critique partners, and I'd had editors and agents look at it and gave me wonderful feedback. And so I actually went ahead and independently published it, or self-published. And I did that through Amazon. And it was a really excellent experience because I was able to choose my own cover art. If you go the more traditional route, you don't get to choose that. And I hired my own editor, and then now I receive the majority of the profits, except for Amazon's cut or any other book distributor online that I use. I get those monies, but it is hard. Independently published is hard in that you don't have that upper crust legitimacy that a large publishing house can offer you. And so if you were to tell somebody, hey, I got a book deal from through Random House or HarperCollins, then people say, oh yeah, they're a real writer. And so usually that's kind of the pie in the sky goal for most writers, is they want to get that big book deal. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands of writers out there. And so it's a very competitive market. And I would say strive for that goal. See if you can get a publisher to publish your work. And if it doesn't work out and you are confident, you've had multiple people look at it, you've had editors, you've had it professionally edited, that's the main thing, then you can go ahead and publish it yourself. And then again, if you're not even that serious about getting something published yet, more of just feedback on your work, Wattpad is a great opportunity, because you don't even have to know the person in life. Just let your parents know what you're doing and who you're communicating with, so that they know that you're being safe online. Another thing to be aware of with self-publishing versus traditionally publishing with a large publisher is, if you publish with a large publisher, you're a lot more likely to get into places like libraries and bookstores. My first novel, The Dollhouse Asylum, was actually for a time on the shelf at Barnes & Noble, and that was really cool. And a few librarians around the world ordered my book, and now it's in libraries. Now, my latest release, Our Sweet Guillotine, is actually not available in bookstores, but a lot of people are buying their books more and more online, and so it's not as much of an issue anymore. And I mean, my local library has that paperback, but I don't think any other librarians have ordered it. I haven't checked. But it's a lot harder to receive that visibility if you independently publish. But again, it is just so much more competitive. And then if you actually do end up in a bookstore, it's kind of like the Redbox, in that you have new releases that come out, and everybody wants those releases, and the shelf life of those movies or books when they come out is very short. So you are only allowed, a little bit of time to make a name for yourself. And if your book is successful, then the bookstore will continue selling it. But there are constantly more books coming in. And so, mine was only in for a few months, and now you can't get it at a regular bookstore. And luckily, the internet makes it possible that anybody can buy it online. But it's just something to be aware of, how the industry is changing. And also, a lot of people buy digital books as opposed to print books. There's still a lot of print books being sold, and that's my favorite too. But and also audiobooks is another thing, and you can actually create your own audiobooks. I have just worked with a producer who recorded the audiobook of The Dollhouse Asylum. She's done an amazing job, and it's getting ready to be available on Amazon. And then I'm working with another company who is going is recording the Our Sweet Guillotine, and it has two protagonists. It's set during the French Revolution, girl protagonist and boy protagonist, and that audiobook will be told via those 2 points of view, which is really fun. I love audiobooks because I am a very audio learner, and I love to hear stories, and I like to multitask and listen and do other things. And so that's something else you could look forward to if you decide to go down the writing path, is you could create audiobooks. Another question you asked is things I enjoy and things that are difficult about writing. So I love creating. I love the creative process. I'm a dreamer, so I love to play with my characters and discover their worlds. I live for the hope that someday somebody else might enjoy my stories as well. But just to be upfront, being a writer is very hard. I mentioned before, it is very competitive. There are more writers now, more than ever. I've often wished that I chose a different job, just because I've been writing for a decade now, and I have very little in terms of financial profits. I have been balancing being a mom and writing, and so it hasn't been my only focus. But when I started 10 years ago, I thought that I would have seen more profits by this point in time than I have seen. Every writer is different. Some make a lot of money. Those writers are very few, and I'm going to include a handout, and you can see the average pay of writers in the industry right now. But it can be challenging, almost like it's been a spiritual challenge for me, just because I've questioned things like my worth and what I have to offer, and if I should continue, if I should quit. But one of the things I've gotten a testimony of this past year is the parable of the talents. And I was reading about it where the one man who received one talent, he buried it. And I don't want to be that person who, because I don't have a lot of other talents, and I don't want to be that person who has honed this gift, learned so much, and then has decided, I give up, it's too embarrassing, it's too hard, and then buries it. I want to continue learning and perfecting and growing and not be guilty of burying my talent. And so if you feel like this is your talent, like you can't imagine doing anything else, then really do pursue writing and practice, 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 and read, read, read. But if there are other things you want to do, such as be a doctor, I know you guys are learning about being a doctor too. Maybe pursue that because it's a lot more regular pay, and you can know what you expect. Anything in the arts field is very uncertain. There are people who can rely on that paycheck a lot more than somebody like I can, but those are the Stephen Kings and Stephanie Meyers of the world, who I adore, but it doesn't happen for all of us. Next question, how does my career fit in with my family lifestyle? I mentioned that I balance writing with having kids. I have a 12-year-old boy, a 9-year-old girl, and a 6-year-old boy, and they keep me really busy. And when I first started, my second was a baby, and that's actually when I knew Sister Smith. And it was a bit challenging, but I actually turned to writing because I needed that escape from being a mom. I needed something else for myself. Since I was home all day with the kids, then it was something I could learn about and be excited about and grow my mind. But as they got older, then I was seeing these other writers who seemed to be able to write all day. But the truth is, a lot of writers balance multiple jobs. It isn't the only thing they do. I know a lot of writers who are actually school teachers and they write on the side. And anyway, I got to the point where I was really excited when all of my kids could start school, because then I could spend the day while they're at school writing. And so that's the case I'm in right now, where my youngest is in first grade. So last year was my first year when they were all in school. And yet I'm still able to be here when they get out. I can pick them up. I can drive them, pick them up for extracurriculars, and take care of anything that they need handled. It's a really great job for being a mom and allowing my own, allowing myself to grow. And then my husband is the breadwinner for the family. So it works really well for us. After listening to this, if writing is something you still want to do, sorry if I scared you off, but I want to be very honest and also tell you that it is also the most fulfilling and exciting job ever, because I have these emotional highs when I write. It feels so good. And I think some of you who are curious about being a writer have probably experienced those things, and it can be so fun and so rewarding just for enjoying the craft itself. And so if you're one of those people and you have more questions for me, you can email me at marycgray@icloud.com and I can answer your questions. A lot of people ask me if I can read their manuscripts, and that's one of those areas that I have to say, I'm sorry. If I read everybody's manuscripts who came to me, I would never get anything done. And that's why I really encourage everyone to turn to your peers, create your critique groups, go onto Wattpad. You can join Twitter and find writers that way. There are numerous opportunities. There are writers all around the world who are looking for buddies, and I have a critique partner, and I have a critique group, and I have an editor that I pay. And so look around you and see what opportunities you can find. And if you want more ideas of maybe editors you could hire, then I'm always here. I am happy to answer questions about that. And then I have mentioned that I have my website, marygraybooks.com, and I'm also running Monster Ivy Publishing. And this is something that my sister and I started to publish our own books, and then we're going to open it up to submissions in the future. And the types of books we're looking to publish are Christian and or conservative messages in the young adult genre, but edgier, not the sweet romance, but edgier things like Hunger Games and stuff. So we look forward to opening that press in the future, because these are the types of books that I write, and then I can make other books similar to mine, and then we can market it together. Anyway, thank you so much for your questions. I hope that I've been helpful, and I wish you the very best in your planning and learning for what you want to do in the future. Thanks. Bye.